we go.
All right, folks. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Stiletto Talks Podcast, where we create collaborative safe spaces for women of color. And today we are recording, ironically, on the International Day of Rest for the Black Woman. Woo, woo, woo to us.
Yes.
Today I have my one of my besties, my sissy, my one call, that's all. If you need a prayer warrior or if you need someone to throw hands, she's all the things, and
That
she's a
girl.
lawyer too. She's all the things. But today we're coming from the education space and the realtor space, and you are in for a treat to hear how you can intertwine careers, how you can take skills that are transferable from one industry to the next. Like just like myself, it's more than one of me. So there's someone else that is doing it and doing it so well. So without further ado, we want to welcome to the show Kaneka Trotter. Whoop, whoop, whoop,
Hello,
whoop.
hello.
I'm so excited. Yeah, yeah.
Me
Oh yeah, you
too.
YouTube folks who forgot about y'all. Sorry. So beyond your titles, because you wear so many, tell us a little bit about them. But beyond your titles, tell us a little bit about what grounds you. So once you give us your whole spiel, what grounds you in all that? Because you a lot of stuff,
I
ma'am.
am a lot. I don't ever realize how much I am until I read the titles and everybody's like, "Oh, what haven't you done?" And I'm like, I don't know, right? I live life to the fullest. And so I'm a mom of three. I'm a grandma of one, a new grandma of one. She's adorable. Um, you know, I have a background just like everybody else. I have an undergrad in criminal justice. I have a master's degree in administration of justice and security. And then I have a second master's in addiction counseling. Go Lopes, Grand Canyon. Um, yeah, and I've just been on a world journey. I say everything is a journey. And so I started in banking, I worked in mortgage, I was a processor, I worked as an investor firm. I've done all kinds of stuff. I was a server when I was younger. I've always been a people person. Then I kind of pivoted when working in behavioral health because I'm a therapist. I worked in behavioral health and I worked in psychiatric mental hospitals, pivoted to senior geriatric care with people with MS, dementia, Alzheimer's. And then I did placement. So, I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Ageless Connections, where I help seniors kind of pivot either into where they want to live in their final years. They can be active, they can be fine, but it can be a little bit more deceiving than that or deceptive. They can have MS, they can be bedbound, they can need 24-hour care. So I'm that person for that family that helps them navigate change. But I also do real estate, right? That's a big type of thing that I do. That's my bread and butter. So when the clients need that 24-hour care, maybe they don't have a policy, maybe they don't have funds to be able to provide that care because it is costly. I sell their property. I sell their property, make sure the funds are secured, and find them another place to go until their end of life, or purchase them a new home if they're still active and moving from, Wyoming or Alabama or whatever, and want to retire in our beautiful state of Arizona. So I do it because I love real estate. I've always loved real estate since my early years. Like I said, I worked with investors before. I worked with builders, and so now is just the time. It's a great time to buy. So yeah, I just love what I do. But I'm focused because my kids. I have a legacy. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and so my kids have seen me work this entire time. And so my older son is getting into real estate. My youngest son is getting into real estate once he graduates high school. He's going to specialize in business with an emphasis in either economics or finance. And so all those things are because we are trying to build a legacy for generations to come.
Y'all heard that? Couldn't say that in one breath. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And the reason why I love what you talk about, Kanika, is because there's so many nuggets you could pull just from you providing information about yourself. Number one, the education aspect. Number two, you have where you've worked for others because you said that you worked in banking, but you
Mhm.
also have simultaneously worked for yourself. And now what you have done is kind of intertwine education and
Mhm.
intertwined it with the real estate. And
Mhm.
now the kids are in it too. They're into the finance and into all the things. And so being in that space, how hard is it to communicate? to your kids the importance of legacy. And the reason why I say that is this: we all see social media, and
Mhm.
we're all concerned. I'm concerned. I'm very concerned.
For sure.
Um, and so sometimes we see things, and on one hand, you say, youth will be okay, but then sometimes you see so many youth that are so frustrated, and they feel like they've been abandoned. You
Mhm.
also hear even millennial, Gen X, just
Mhm.
sometimes not kind of at odds, and then you also have millennial and now Gen Z. You have all of these people now who are able to work. We're
Mhm.
all working at the same time in these same
Mhm.
spaces, and so it can be difficult to communicate what we know down to the younger generation. And so, talk to me a little bit about how important it has been that you translate your journey to your kids over into them understanding that all of this, being an entrepreneur and working for someone else, or however you're going to intertwine those things, but in your case, it's education and real estate, getting them to understand that those two things specifically are for legacy.
Yeah, so because I've started young, right? I was a mom at 17, I had another baby at 20, my youngest was at 26. They got to grow with me. And so luckily, I went to the military for a little bit, got some discipline under my belt, but it really was about when I decided to be an entrepreneur, it was because I was trying to be on the same schedule as my children. I wanted to be a very active parent in my children's lives and upbringing. And so I pivoted where they could go. With that being, they had to be with me, right? So if I had to show houses, if I needed to do some admin work, if it was late, I was there and they got to see it with me. But also, it's about being transparent, talking about finances to your kids, letting them know, like, this is how much the electric bill cost. This is how much the mortgage cost. Making sure that they understood what a trust was, making sure that they were just involved in the process at all times. So all of my kids have worked with me at some point. They've either been an admin assistant, I've made them do emails, I've made them either, if I was in education, I've made them grade homework. I've made you feel what it is to be a part of something. If you want to be an entrepreneur, there is some work and it's not a 9 to 5. This is a 24-hour type of thing. So you get to see me answer phone calls at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night after I've showered, after I've made dinner, and then maybe have some long nights. So being fully transparent and saying, hey, if you want to live this life, there are some sacrifices that you're going to make, and letting them see what those look like. But also then letting them see the rewards. I've never shied away from when I get big lump checks from real estate or anything like that. They get to see those rewards. So having them see it and knowing that they had to put the effort in it, they've worked for it and they understand what it means to leave a legacy.
I love how you are very intentional.
Mhm.
Everything that you're saying sounds so intentional. Having them do work. I was recently with some young folks, and when they realized that they had to work through a process to get to an outcome, they were like, "Who, us? Like we don't do that." And so it's great because they've never necessarily been challenged to do
Right.
something like that. And so it's great that you're teaching your children how to work. So when
Mhm.
they transition over with their education and moving it over into the real estate, it will be just a fluid because they
Seamless.
understand it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they understand it. And so what inspired you? Because real estate is just a whole nother game. For some, it can be a really easy game. It comes natural. And I know you talked about the discipline aspect, and you have an extensive background where you can see that real estate could fit in.
Mhm.
But talk to me about what really made you say, you know what, this is the pivot. This is where I see I'm going to have some of the greatest chances for generational wealth because this is historical to our community. We should know
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
Land, we understand there's power in ownership, but then
Yeah.
somewhere along the line, we kind of got out of that. And so talk to me a little bit about your understanding of this and saying, you know what, this is it. This is the path. It's not only going to be me and my children. We're about to get this done.
Right. So I've been blessed with, I grew up with parents who owned homes. And so my mother still lives in my childhood home. My father lives on his childhood property, and so my grandparents owned that property as well. So it really is kind of generational. I saw my grandmother like make sure that we owned land. We own land in Texas. We own land here. But it wasn't until probably in my 20s when I worked for an investor, and he had me going out looking for properties to say if it was a good buy or not. I really didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, oh, I'll go. And I'll be like, oh, that would be something that I could buy. That would be something, oh, no, that's not a good one. There was termites, there was this. So when I figured out like, oh, this is generational wealth, and then just kind of understanding, going to college, figuring out like these investments, the way to secure your future is going to be through real estate. So when you think about the McDonald's that's being built at the end of your street, or the QT that's being built at the corner of your street, that's not just about gas. That's not just about fast food. They are real estate moguls. And so making sure that they have the placement to make sure that they're profitable in whatever they're doing is the key. And so situs, which means location, 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 is prime. So I did extensive, research on planned urban developments and figuring out what does that look like. And the best way for us to kind of get that generational wealth is through real estate. Purchasing land, right? It could be raw land. Land doesn't depreciate, and then be able to build on top of that. And then people just don't understand that process. And so it was very imperative. And then also using, once you get land or once you build a small home, you don't have to buy a mansion for your first property. It can be a very humble home, right? And then being able to leverage that equity out, pull it out, and then be able to purchase something else. And so we are just lack of doing it because of lack of knowledge. And so that was something that, me being at the right place at the right time, I've always loved interior design. I've always toured model homes, even in my 20s. I'm in my 40s now. And I knew that that was the thing that I wanted to do. And that was where I could make the most effective change for my family and my legacy.
Oh, good tea, good tea. So you talked about educating and especially educating others, especially when it comes to home ownership and land.
Mhm.
Now, before we got on here, we were going in hard, y'all. Before we tried to say, you know what, it's time to record because we were going in. And what we talked about is sometimes for some, because there's so many, sometimes like information overload on social media or information that's just out there. It's not just social media, but some people are experts of nothing, but they
Right.
can certainly sound very convincing. And then there are some that maybe you didn't have the best experience, or maybe you were a victim of some type of scam. And so maybe you're kind of steering
Mhm.
away. But you talked about sometimes you have to walk people all the way back to get them to understand what each step is. And so you find yourself educating them. You also find yourself understanding their mental state because they're getting frustrated and
Mhm.
maybe not understanding that ownership is a process.
Yeah.
Ownership of anything is a process. Um,
Mhm.
Talk a little bit about how of course, your background, you have that education background in there. So talk a little bit of how you use that. And almost kind of dealing with the kids to help the adults understand it is a process and educating them on the benefits of real estate.
Right. So everything. So even when I say, former educator or educator, I inform my clients currently, right? And so some of them are like, do I need a bank account to open a mortgage? Yes. Right? Do I need employment? Yes, right? So those basic steps. It's not, I mean, if you're a cash buyer and you're coming with cash, then that's different, but most of us aren't. Some of us need to have a loan. We need to have a mortgage on it. But what does that look like? Are you in a position to set yourself up where someone's going to trust you with their money if I give you a $400,000 loan to purchase a property? What have you did? People don't understand that there's work, right? So there are going to be some sacrifices in order for you to have a clean application or a clean file for you to get the funds that you need to purchase a property. If that means you can't go out to eat for a year, if that means you got to cut your cable off, right? If that means you have to live these basic things to make sure that all of your money is incorporated into you getting your dream home, take that little sacrifice. Sometimes we want that immediate kind of prize without having to do any legwork, and that's just not how real estate works. There are things that we have to do to prepare ourselves. And so educating my clients like, hey, please do not go buy a new car. Please do not quit your job. Please do not go buy furniture for a house you don't even have yet. Those are conversations that I have to have because those things can disqualify you in the middle of your purchasing. And so until it's stamped and sealed and done, I have to advise them all the time like, Do not do anything on your credit card. You cannot go on vacation if you haven't already planned it. Like those are the things. And we like to travel. We like the nice things. We like the flashy things. But when home ownership, knowing that you need to use this as leverage to make your life different, I do have those kind of come to Jesus moments with my clients and telling them, hey, so we're not going to Puerto Vallarta. We need that money to stay in your bank account. I know your car, you want a new car, and Ford just sent you a brand new, you can get a low interest payment on it and you can trade it in. We're not doing that. I need you to keep that car, right? We're not trading in. We're not doing any of that. Now, when the deal closes, go ahead and do your thing, right? But switch jobs then. But sometimes the same thing with jobs. If you're in the middle of an application and you're getting your home and you hate your job, right? I need you to stay with it a little bit longer until we close, right? The day it closes, the next day resign. I don't care what happens the next day, but until then, if that's your goal of home ownership, we need to just have some consistency. And that's just lack of knowledge. Like we just don't know. We can't buy a new car. I have the money, I can do it. But what does your credit look like when you do that? What are you saying to the creditors or the lenders when you just kind of move adjacently and just quickly without thinking about the long game? And so my goal is to always teach my clients the long game. There's no short game here. There's a long game and when it comes to real estate.
That is so good because sometimes you don't think about that. And I remember when I bought my first home, that is one of the first things that we were told, like, hey, you can't
Don't
go.
do it.
And I had plans. I was a salon owner at the time. I had other plans. And so, like you said, to go 6 months where you're not buying something is just like poo, right?
Pooh.
And so, but at the same time, it is, it was just great to be able to do that. By the time my
Mhm.
son turned 1, I had a home. And
Yeah.
so it was just great. But again, you talked about the discipline aspect of it. And so for us, we have to have the discipline to hop on stuff no matter what we see politically that we may or may not like, because we could go down that rabbit hole and stay and nest up, but we're not. But markets and trends and understanding
Mhm.
the trends. What are some things that we, especially Black women, because
Mhm.
sometimes, again, we know all the new trends, we know all the this here, the tea, and all this other kind of stuff. But then when it gets to the real tea, you can't afford anything, right? So, what are some markets or some trends that you see happening in real estate? And then some are like myself, we Gen X is getting older. You don't have certain responsibilities anymore, and maybe you're looking to have that investment property. You're looking for self-producing income so you can stop working so much because you got something else coming in. So what are some market trends that you see that may be advantageous to us?
There are lots of programs. And so I would tell people to shop around. Don't ever think that you are going to just find what you're looking for by Googling one time. Also, who you work with matters, right? So I know that there's tons of agents, and you might know my Aunt Sally, Uncle Billy Bob's niece is an agent. That doesn't mean she's your agent, right? And it also doesn't mean that you should always use someone that you just know, right? Their representation exceeds themselves, right? And so, I work with Realty One Group. We're on the luxury division. I've been in the industry long enough that I know what luxury looks like. I know what a residential home looks like. It matters who you work with, and it matters their professionalism, what they put into it, right? All agents aren't the same. And so when people say, like, oh, I know 12 agents, okay, you might, but also what is the knowledge that comes behind it? What have they did before? Have they always been an agent? Are they new in the field? And if they're new in the field, what did they do prior to that, right? And so it's about trending is it's a good time to buy, right? Interest rates are pretty low. We remember when the interest rates were in the sevens and a little bit higher. Right now, they are like 5.98 to 6.15, depending on if you're doing a conventional FHA loan. Are you a vet? Are you doing a VA loan? There's different opportunities. Plus, there's different programs, right? What are you looking for? How quickly do you want to buy as well? So the time to buy is now, but it's also a seller's market, right? So we're coming at a bridge where everybody's kind of ready to move, but you guys have to be ready to purchase. We're not in bidding wars yet, but I don't foresee it ever going to be like it was prior, but there are multiple offers on properties at times. And so be prepared to move as quickly as you can. Yeah, just know who you're working with. Who you work with matters.
And that's real tea for you little tea folks. That's real tea.
Mhm.
So what does leadership look like for you? Because in this season of your life, because you have led the whole way through, and now again, here come the legacy, uh, 2 and 3,
Yeah.
um, well, 1 and 3, probably 1, 2, and 3, because I know eventually they'll all be in it, knowing them. Uh, so when you think about that now in the leadership, and now having your own team, having an assistant, someone to support you with real estate. What does leadership look like you now in this season of your life? Because you've been a principal, you've done all the things. So, what does that look like for you now as of today?
Leadership's a little bit different because I have the experience. It's easy for me to just kind of let them watch, right? And so I don't have to necessarily dictate as much as I did before and show my worth. I've been in the game in the industry long enough that people are like, oh, Kaneka's doing it. Hold on, let's listen for a second, right? And so it's a lot about showing them I've proven myself. I've been in the game long enough. Tons of referrals, tons of testimony that tell you like I know my stuff. And so it's about now you have to watch me. So you see what I'm doing, repeat it, do what I do, right? And so that's kind of what it is. I'm sorry, I have a little cough. And so I just want them to kind of mock what I do and to just follow my leadership. If they need assistance, I give it to them. But for the most part, it's about just leading by example.
Yes, yes, I love it. And so, of course, here we got to ask our typical stiletto questions to all of those who pop on here. Um, when did you realize that your voice has influence? I know you kind of about to get choked up a little bit over there, but I can't wait to hear this. When did, because your voice has impact. I have been an eyewitness multiple times where this voice has impact and people listen. And what I love is that you don't talk about historically who you're related to, nobody else. You talking about your voice. You don't care
Mhm.
if 10 people, 100 people say one thing, far as you're concerned, you said this, and I've seen this in a lot.
Firsthand.
So when did you realize for real, for all the things that you do, because everything you transition to or pivot to, you have to make sure your voice has impact. So when did you realize you could do that?
Oh my gosh, I have been Kanika for a very long time, right? And so I've never shied away from being an advocate. Um, I've always kind of be the voice of the people. And so probably because I was a teen mom, I had to advocate for myself then. Um, sorry, working because I was a teen mom, I had a baby at a teaching hospital. They didn't listen to me. I was a 17-year-old having a baby, and I needed to advocate for myself then. So, with me being able to advocate for myself then and telling them how I felt, it just it led me into a life of advocacy of just making sure that the people's voices that aren't heard are heard. So very young, so probably 16, 17 years old, I was like, I said what I said and I said what I said, and it's been who I am to this day. So just who I am.
I'm thinking probably Girl Scout days, but I'm gonna go with that one. Of course, being a teen mom, I would suspect you've known you had a voice for quite some time. But yeah, that's definitely probably a pivotal moment. As a teen mom as well, I can certainly relate that that can be a point where we realize, because you're having to advocate for yourself and your own health, and you really are now becoming an adult because you're responsible for somebody else. But at the same time, people are like, "Oh, you're young, really young," and you're still like, "And that may be so, but I said what I said." So once you start down that path, like you said, it's just a lifetime, and so it can be. We don't cut it off.
No,
I,
and I'm also an only girl. So I'm in the middle of two brothers. And so just growing up historically, I had to advocate for myself, right? My older brother is 4 years older. My younger brother is almost 6 years younger. And so there's just that middle child, right? And it may be middle child syndrome or whatever they call it. But it's also kind of being spoken up because you're kind of forgotten, right? So literally, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, just making sure that my voice is heard. But it really did start from childhood. It started with being a teen mom, just advocating for myself, and then noticing like, oh, they don't take you seriously if you don't have this education behind you, if you don't speak fluently, if you don't present well. Professionalism matters, all that thing. So when I started to maneuver in the workspace, I noticed that certain behaviors weren't tolerated or recognized when you were over dramatic or theatrical. So just really able to hone myself in and be able to be heard without all the extra charades, right? And so making sure that I just show up, I present myself well, keep it to the facts, and so I'm not overly emotionally involved. And then just, making sure that my voice is heard at all times. That's my biggest thing. Even if change doesn't happen, I want to make sure that my voice was heard.
Right.
So don't say I didn't tell you when I told you. Even if change doesn't occur, I want to make sure that I said it out loud, and I said what I said, and I meant what I meant.
I love that. And then what advice, of course, in your case, you have pivoted. You pivoted and she's pivoting out of the classroom. And I tell you, that's gonna be wild times, man, because you are just so needed. And I know that you've shared a lot. But I also can respect the fact, even in my own walk, I know when certain seasons that you're just being called to a different season. And you also have to respect that about your life. And so what advice, and there are so many women, we all know this started last year with the 300,000. Look, you see me looking down. I'm just gonna start with that. And so many women of color have found themselves needing to pivot. But pivoting is scary, right?
Yeah.
Because pivoting may involve a little failing that maybe you have the strength for when you're younger, but maybe not so much the strength when you're older. So when that happens, you're like, "Ooh, me," and so the sting may not come off as much because you feel like you're dealing with mortality. So, what advice would you give someone? Because now they're getting to the point. This is your time. This is your time to jump into the double dutch. You can do this. You can get in. You got the skills to get in the game.
Well,
Advice would you give
I
them?
always tell people live below your means, right? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, right? Month by month, your income is cynical because it can go up and down depending on what you're doing. Real estate is that, right? I can have really great months, I can have really low months, but are you prepared? Having a plan, right? Don't just do things kind of blindly. Also, failing is a part of success. Like, if people heard my story of how Ageless Connections was created, I was forced out of a company because I became too big of competition, right? But that's not failing. To some people, it's failing. To me, I thought it was failing, but I failed forward, right? So you can fail forward, right? So failing doesn't have to be like, I lost everything, I'm at ground zero. Failing forward is a thing, right? And it makes you kind of get that fire underneath yourself that makes you kind of pivot. We are creative beings, right? Culturally, we start everything, we finish it, we put flavor on it, all the things we are, right? And so making sure that we are just prepared for whatever the industry throws at us. And so I made sure to always live below my means. I bought a very modest house when I first purchased a house. I knew I needed to make sure that my mortgage stayed at a certain level because I didn't want to work for somebody for the rest of my life. But if I had a bad month or two or three, was I going to be able to shift and pay these bills? And so while I like nice and shiny, my bigger goal is to make sure that I can invest the way that I want to invest and move the way that I want to invest. But that means that keeping your bills low, keeping a plan. I always kind of talk to my kids like, what's our 1 year plan? What does it look like next year for us? And we go by those things. We don't live week by week or month by month. And then also make sure you have certifications. If you're not degreed up, certify up, right? If you don't have, make sure you can do. I have been a coach for soccer for many years. I got paid for that. I've worked in private schools. I was a dean. I've worked in finance. I've worked in with mortgage processing. I have a list, right? But I also make sure that I have certifications that even if I'm having a bad month or a bad semester or a bad quarter, I can pivot in something else, right? So making sure that I always have a way to eat is my biggest motto, and always being prepared. Make sure your resume is always updated, right? So if we have to pivot,
That part.
make sure it's every single job you get, you update it right then and there. The minute that you figure out what your job description is, go ahead and plug that into your resume and make sure it's up to date. And then I'm always looking. And so even though I'm in the classroom, I'm in real estate or whatever, I'm always looking for better opportunities because that is the world that we live in. I'm faithful to, of course, my real estate team and my group. However, if there's an opportunity that presents itself, I always want to be prepared. So I stay ready all the time. What is it? You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. That is one of the things that I live by is every day I show up. Every day I'm fully made when I go out into this world because what is the representation that you look like, right? So I always make sure that lashes, all the makeup is always done. I dress positively and professionally at all times. So you can never see me off my game because I'm a representation. I'm a brand. And I want you to always see me. So if you see my picture, if you see me on Facebook, if you see my business card, I look like that all the time because I'm ready for whatever opportunity presents itself.
And I love that you brought that up because sometimes we forget about number one, failing forward. It's okay,
It's okay.
especially right now because sometimes it has nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have to respect those shifts. I also like that you talked about certifying. I think some people think that they have to go get in debt or they just have to go back to a 4-year college and maybe that's something you're not looking for. But
Mm-hmm.
upskilling is just sometimes just as simple as taking a couple of classes and getting something else under your belt. Again, like
Yeah.
you said, there's something you can immediately add on your resume. Hey, I have skills in this, 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 and this, because that's
Mm-hmm.
something that HR execs may be looking for and may allow you to at least be interviewed and be seen and they can see your other light. You also talked about how you present yourself out into the public. I can honestly say, as long as I've known you and I really thought about it, I have never seen you not put together, not ever, not even sick. I
Mm-mm.
never, not also, I cannot think of a time. I said, now I know I done seen this girl in a bonnet or something. I
Nope.
have not seen you, sis, not out of order. And I know that comes a
Never.
lot with your discipline too, because you're just a naturally very disciplined person. But I
Mm-hmm.
like the fact that you gave people practical tools to think about how you show up with your outer appearance like. Does
Mm-hmm.
your audio match your video? Do you match who you want to be? Do you understand that if there's something you want to be, you got to walk that brand. You got to live that,
Yes.
you know.
Yes.
You're not just playing dress up. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
for real, for real. When you want, if
Yeah.
you want people to believe it, then you're gonna have to be believable, you know.
Yeah.
So I love that you brought that up. So, Kanika, obviously you're fabulous to know. I know you, so I'm already
Thank
glad. But other people need to know you. I won't keep you all to myself.
you.
Can people stay in touch with you, especially whether it's real estate, you're looking to pivot, maybe to hear more about what do I need to do to purchase property. Like you said, some people want investment properties. They just want to take advantage of this market right now. Those are some things that we can do. Maybe you got some buyout money in this buyout that occurred. Maybe
Right.
you're looking to do something. How do we connect with you?
Well, you can call me anytime. My number is 623-204-7999. My email is my first name, last name, Kaneka, Kanekat at agelessconnections.org. AGELESSCONNECTIONS.org. I'm on Facebook under Kanika underscore Naila. That's my middle name. There's Kanika the Realtor as well. You can hit me up there. I'm on LinkedIn. There's just pretty much no impossible way to kind of avoid me. If you even just Google my first and last name, Kaneka Trotter, I come up. And those numbers are legit. I've had the same number for 23 years. And so if the number is associated with Kanika, it's my phone number, right? Um, yeah, anytime I'm open to talking to anybody and just kind of letting them know. I also want to say another thing when it comes to like rentals, like even if you're not ready to buy, if you're like, I just need to get in a rental, use a realtor for that, guys. Like, I know you guys want to use like apartment.com and all that kind of stuff, which is great, right? There's a great tool for that. But also, I help people get into rentals. So, what if you need to just do a rental for a year to get on your feet to prepare yourself? Well, let me go ahead and shop around that for you. And then when it's time to either purchase that property, if that's an option, or let's find another property for you, right? So, we negotiate all those deals to make sure that you don't have like a slumlord or you're not in a bad deal. These agents are professionals that help you make sure that you are in a good contract, right? And so things happen like that all the time. So we help with rentals, property management, we help with land, commercial, residential. It's kind of whatever is the need for when real estate happens, we're here for it. And I'm here for it. Just, pick my brain. Let's set up a time to talk. Let's see what we can do. Making sure that you have a lender. You can use whatever lender you want. However, I have preferred lenders that I know that work well, right? If we have our documents and everything that's needed. And if not, those lenders have programs. It's easy for us to get you pre-qualified if you have the things that are needed. Of course, you need stable income. I need some people to have a job, right? Credit matters. I need some
Yes.
good credit, right? I don't need you to buy a new car, no Bentleys, none of that stuff right now, unless you can afford it. I mean, if you're like a doctor and you can move weight like that, then great. But if not, we can have a humble conversation about what it looks like and what are your goals and how quickly those goals are trying to be achievable and is it attainable of what you want. So we can put you on a plan. We can put you on a monthly checklist where we can check in every couple of weeks to make sure that we're progressing through for the end result, which is buying a home and being able to have that legacy. It just starts with one property, guys. You don't have to buy the whole block. It just starts with one.
But we do need to be thinking about buying the block, though.
Buy
And the
the
rest
block, right?
of
But
us
start with
we need to
one,
be thinking
right?
about buying the block, but it starts with one. And
It
I
starts with one.
as my sister, as my friend, but really as someone who there's never a time that I talk to you where there's not leveling up involved and there's not positivity. And so, number one, thank you for believing in Stiletto Talks when it was not even a thing in Arizona yet. It was still back home. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
I think you've been
you're very
on
welcome.
every segment, anything we've ever had. I think you've been a participant, and thank you for continuing to show up for women and that you understand that it matters. The second thing is thank you for sharing and educating us more about real estate. I think sometimes anything dealing with finances sometimes can be taboo, like the big bag wolf to us.
Yeah,
But it doesn't have to be if you have the right person walking with you. And I
yeah,
like that you talked about having someone you can trust.
yeah.
um, if you're listening or if you're watching this on YouTube, you cannot trust everyone. You
Mm-mm.
cannot trust everyone. And I can say
No,
that again. I said what I said. You cannot trust everyone.
for
And
sure.
because I think it's really important for us to realize some people, once they have a bad experience, then that word
Yeah,
of mouth spreads out over, and the fear mongering is often what is stopping. Or sometimes it's just historically we've been told what we can't have.
for
And you
sure.
haven't done an assessment as to what you really can have because you're still stuck on the belief of what you can't have.
Right.
So thank you for again for just sharing that yes, you can, and there is a method to get it done.
Yeah.
Also, showing up if you're going to pivot. Thank you for reminding folks you got to look like you where you want to be at.
Hmm.
We can show up, and don't get me wrong, I love a good bonnet, but you can't show up outside in it at the real estate office. So please,
Right.
please let us think about how we're going to show up in the world. And to that I mean show up just being your best. Dress your best, thrift store, Chanel or otherwise. Dress for success. Dress with the intent that
People
I
don't
lay my
realize.
business down, my new pivot down, whatever
Yeah,
that is, and understand you can do it. It may
you
take
can.
some time, and failing forward is still moving forward. It's okay.
Hmm.
Will you
It
have
is
to
okay.
lick a wound or two? Probably.
Yeah,
Um, but you're going to be more regretful if you never try it than you
for
would
sure.
if you tried it and failed. I suggest you try it. It's worth a try.
You
And
never know what you're made of unless you put it out there, right? And so what if you're amazing at it, right? So if you don't try it because you let your fears or your insecurities stop you, like you're just limiting yourself on how great you can be. So I tell everybody to try it once, right? I've had businesses that I've started and I failed backwards, right? And weren't successful, but I learned something from every single one of those opportunities and it made me who I am today. It made me a better negotiator. It made me not tolerate certain things. It made me review contracts. All those things are needed. And because you can't be great without lessons, right? And so I never take it as like, oh, that was a terrible situation. It was a lesson that I needed to learn. And now I can go forward in this business or the next business um, and
You're,
be successful at it.
you're going to be tomorrow's meme. You can't be great without lessons, honey. You will be tomorrow's meme because that's really a thing. You
Yeah.
can't. I think sometimes we want the oil without the crushing, if you will. You
Right.
know, and sometimes that's exactly what you have to go through. So I
Yeah.
love it. You
Yeah. Diamonds are built with pressure. So,
can't,
like,
you can't get there without the lessons.
yeah.
I love it. And so
Yes.
again, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Please make sure that you stay tuned in or stay connected with the Stiletto Talks. You can stay connected with us at www.thestilettotalks.com. We're on all social media. We're also on Podbean podcast, which of course is you can find us under the Stiletto Talks. And of course on YouTube. My apologies for getting about the YouTube land earlier, but we're not gonna forget because we're on there. But again, we thank you so much for
You're
hearing
welcome.
us, for seeing us, and for loving all the ladies of the Stiletto Talks. Stiletto Talks. Did I just say Stiletto?
Mm,
Stiletto
that's all
Talks.
right.
On that note, that's a wrap. Bye, everybody.
Bye.